Hi, folks, and welcome back to Money and Politics. It is June the 2nd already, and finally, Humbl had a stumble. I mean, we've had about, 7 days in a row where the stock has gone up from the low of May 20 when we hit 76 cents, if you can believe that. I know you can. It's a painful memory for many of us. Here it is now, still up almost 100%. From that low, and we see the price action for 5 days where it was up, and here's the 1 month chart, and you can more pronounced see that where it has gone up until today, and we see in the action the 1 day chart here for the 2nd of June where it did go down a bit, and it had a above average volume of 17.3 million shares. Now, one of the things that was of interest today, and we are going to be talking about, is that Humbl announces a strategic collaboration with Athletes First. And this just came out, and by the way, isn't it nice that we see Humbl putting out, some kind of a press release, and it's just more than a tweet here. And so it's on the newswire, and it says Humbl announced today it is retained Athletes First as a strategic consultant to focus on the development of new business verticals, and listen to this part, in such areas as non-fungible tokens, digital media, and ticketing. So it's not just NFTs, it's ticketing. And because it's well known in my family that I am not the expert on sports, Thomas is far more knowledgeable than I. We welcome back my son, Thomas, because he actually sent me a text today to bring this to my attention that this was going down, and we talked about it, and again, he had some insights that I would not have had, so I wanted to bring Tom and welcome him back to the show. So, Tom, thanks again, and let's just get to it. What is your take on this merger with Humbl and Athletes First?
We're in the big times. I texted you this morning. I said, ignore the stock price right now, but did you see the press release from this morning? This was the best press release I've seen from Humbl since months ago, I think, with Aurea Group down in Chile. We just had the NFT soft launch, and you saw photographs of Clint Eastwood, Kim Kardashian, others. Gwen Stefani, one of my favorites. I mean, these are tens of thousands of dollars over the course of the auction. And it's no offense to Smalls and Raskin. This was our soft launch, and we signed on with them, and we got these photographs to deliver. But now we're talking NFL talent going into Humbl NFTs. And I was trying to explain to you over the phone, this is a big deal. These aren't just any athletes. You have signed with Athletes First, and they've promised to deliver A-list talent. You have Aaron Rodgers, future Hall of Famer. You have Dak Prescott with the Dallas Cowboys. You have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, two players I'm very well familiar with, as I am a LA Rams fan. Justin Herbert, who I believe is going into his second season. He had a great rookie campaign. And Justin Fields, who was signed by the Chicago Bears, I believe, in the first round in the draft not too long ago. So these are well-known athletes, well-known stars in the NFL. These are up-and-comers in the NFL. And more so than just focusing on the NFTs, this is a big step forward for Humbl to get their foot into the door of the NFL. And as they say in the press release, it's not just going to be the NFTs that we're looking forward to. It's going to involve ticketing as well. We know Brian Foote in the past has talked about wanting to have contactless ticketing at sporting venues, and we know about Tickery as well. But Athletes First has also talked about doing marketing and promotional material for Humbl. And I've said it on this show a couple of times before, nobody knows about Humbl. And in some ways that's a benefit. You can buy your shares for fairly cheap. But eventually, you're going to want people to know about Humbl. And so if Athletes First is going to step in and not only bring the very well-known talent on their client list for those NFTs, but they're also going to do some promotional work. I think this is huge going forward. It is a huge opportunity for Humbl. And that's why when I saw this press release this morning, I was just very, very excited. I know the stock price didn't reflect that. That's fine. We went on an insane run over the past 7 days.
Yeah, up over 100%.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Stock could have gone down 20% today. That press release was more than enough for me.
Let me bring this in, Tom, the press release, as you were saying here. And if we look at the middle paragraph here, Athletes First will support Humbl in delivering elite white glove service for a select group of A-list sports and entertainment talent. This is what you were talking about, with an initial focus on highly curated NFT galleries alongside Emmy-nominated creative house Goat Farm Media. Athletes First will also provide Humbl, and again, I emphasize this, with introductions to the ticketing industry, marketing, and promotional support. So this could be big relative to not just the NFTs, but to ticketing. And we've talked obviously about that and how much more business could ticketing possibly do with the coronavirus going away. And now with this, I think this is a smart move. I think this also emphasizes what we've talked about in the past, that there are things going on behind the scenes, and people probably thought I was just making excuses for the company throughout the spring when I kept saying, folks, they got to set themselves up. You know, they're brand new, and here they've done hires. They did the merger with the group I can never pronounce down in Chile.
Monster Creative, Aurea Group.
Aurea Group, yeah, and Monster.
Artura
and
Capital
ticketing. So they did those three in what, 4 months, as well as everything else that they've done, launching the NFT, getting the initial draft of the app out. So yeah, let's. If you wanted to add, I don't know if you wanted to add on that, but as you say, it's not just the ticketing, or it is the ticketing. It's not just the athletes and NFTs. Yeah.
I want to give credit. I remember it was on the CNBC interview. The CNBC anchor threw out the names Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers, and in terms of NFTs, and people took that to mean that Humbl was going to be working with Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott. I was very reticent. I said, hey, those words didn't come out of Brian Foote's mouth. I think that's just the anchor giving examples of athletes when they're talking about athletes and NFTs. No, I apologize to everyone online. You guys were right. And going back to what you said, talking about work behind the scenes, that CNBC interview was a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Like
time kind of flies by, but they mentioned Rodgers and Prescott. So this deal with Athletes First, in my opinion, was something that Humbl was working on behind the scenes quite some time ago. And in terms of just the big picture, all roads lead to the app. And what I feel we're seeing right now is Humbl laying the groundwork. They're making partnerships with NFTs. They've got Tickery. I know people are going, well, where's peer-to-peer? What's going on with that? What's going on with the app? That's all coming, but it's also how do you drive traffic to the app? You're going to introduce people to Humbl's NFTs. You're going to have people using Tickery. And when those integrations from the NFT and Tickery make their way to the app as we get further along in the second quarter into the third, now you're getting somewhat of a built-in audience that's going to be using that app. And then what are they going to see on the app? They're going to see peer-to-peer. They're going to see the one-click ETX. They're going to see the option to pay merchants and local businesses through Humbl. So all of this is coming together. The groundwork is being laid. You know, each one of these things, ticketing, Tickery, NFTs, Athletes First, it's all coming together to become part of the big picture that we're going to see coming out over the course of the next couple of months and later this year. So yes, they're working on things behind the scenes that we don't even know about. We'll learn more, I hope, on Friday with this interview with Charles Payne. I think I might be on the road. Unfortunately, I might have to miss that one. Of all the interviews I would like to see, I couldn't have picked a worse time to be potentially heading down to southern Indiana. So we got a lot of
what are your thoughts with what are your thoughts given there was a sell-off with Brian Foote on the first interview with CNBC? What thoughts would you have with him being with Charles Payne? Let's leave it there. What's that? There's the question. What are your thoughts as he goes for a Friday during the market, open, still market's still open? And if you had any advice for Brian Foote in the interview, what would you tell him?
I'd first say, there was this misconception in the CNBC interview that the stock was falling down because of him. The stock started falling down, I think, before he even began speaking. It was a easy swing trade to make coming off of the momentum of the stock after the shareholders conference call, and then he's going to be here on CNBC. The stock price jumped to $3.54 right at the beginning, and then it fell off a cliff. I don't even think Foote had even opened his mouth yet to say anything, and the stock started falling. I think that CNBC interview was a missed opportunity. It was a very narrowly discussed conversation on NFTs when Humbl offers so much more. Foote said later, and we discussed this before, he said, I forgot how fast 5 minutes passes on TV. And so they don't give you a very big window in which to get all your points across. So my advice this time around, excuse me, I knocked my phone. My advice this time around is treat this interview as in you're not answering the questions you're asked. You're answering the questions you wish you were asked. There are things that you have to mention. And if you get asked about something that isn't really particular to what you want to talk about, whether it's the app or the NFTs or the ETX or revenues or partnerships, you just got to find a way to pivot to make sure that you hit all of those points, because you're only going to have a finite amount of time. And as you and I both know, when we do these interviews, time passes by very quickly. So the first time around was a missed opportunity. I knew he was going to have other opportunities to talk. So now let's make this one the opportunity when you come out and introduce yourself to the world. I'm Brian Foote. I am with Humbl. What does Humbl do? What problems does it solve?
Right.
Why is it beneficial? And even though you don't say this directly, you explain it by discussing Humbl. Why should people invest in this? Because that's your audience here. You're not speaking to Charles Payne in so much as you are speaking to the investment community, which is watching. So that's all the stuff that has to go around. Who am I really speaking with? The viewers, potential investors. What is it I need to discuss? Charles Payne could ask you something out in left field. Hey, your general thoughts of the market. Some of these meme stocks going on. You just got to pivot to hit the app, ticketing, NFTs, ETX, partnerships, growth going forward. It doesn't have to be in-depth. You're not going to have time to be in-depth on everything. We don't need to know the breakdown of all the blocks on the ETX. We just don't have time.
Right.
But
what I would say to him, I would say to Brian, look, if you had 3 things you wanted to make sure you could get across, and not in depth, you don't have time to go vertical. You don't have time to go vertical like Tom and I. We're at 14 minutes since we started here. You're not going to get 14 minutes, Mr. Foote. You're going to get about 3, maybe 5 at the most. And so
7.
pick 3 things that you would want. What are your major 3 things? And drive that home. And it seems to me that I want to make sure that one of them would be give the big picture. We're part of the digital transformation, and we are, through our app, going to have this, that, and the other thing. And one of the things that that we're going to be doing, which no one has been basically doing before in the history of mankind, are NFTs. And we just announced a deal this week with that. And we started the launch of this, about a week ago. And our very first NFT, a picture of Clint Eastwood, went for, I think it was just right around $10,000, yeah, or just under. So, that's a specific example of what an NFT would go for and the kind of money it can bring in, and that you just launched that and you just did an agreement today, and that we think that we can leverage this association, this collaboration with Athletes First, as you and I, Tom, have been talking about. But, that's the thing to share with the audience. I also would say, by the way, I think of the people that I think are some of the most solid people on any of the investment channels. I really don't watch Bloomberg. They're not my thing. But Charles Payne, I think, is very solid. I like Charles Payne. I think he's a good interviewer. I think he's a good broadcaster. He's also not a broadcaster doing business news. He's a business and an investor guy doing broadcasting. So he knows his stuff. And that's why I like him. He knows his stuff. And I have a lot of confidence in Charles Payne. And I also think he's a very decent guy. I don't think he's out to get you. He's not out to trip you up. So.
And the other thing in this interview,
yep.
No jargon. Keep it simple.
Oh, yeah.
Dumb it down for us.
That's a good thing, because when I've been critical, Brian, don't use jargon and try to say this in simple sentences. That's an excellent point Thomas made, because Brian, I'd have to listen to some of you, but you use terminology that does not exist in the mind of most people. I'd have to go back and listen to some of your comments before.
Well, digital assets versus saying cryptocurrency, verticals as opposed to revenue streams.
Yeah, exactly. Don't say verticals. We're upping up 4 or 5 primary revenue streams that we see can explode onto the scene over the next 1 to 2 years. Some of these have been done somewhat. Some of these have never been done, and we think we are positioned well to really leverage these in a global fashion. And so the potential growth rate of Humbl over the next 3 to 5 years is really strong, and can be that's what we're very excited about. And in the first 6 months, we've already done 3 primary deals. We're looking to do more. We're launching our rolling out our app in stages. And we're going to be updating that on a regular basis. So something like that, I mean, and it goes by. I mean, Tom, you and I have now at almost 18 minutes when I said we'll just do 10. It always goes by.
And I knew there's no way in hell we were only going to do 10. Well, so.
It always goes by as faster. Okay. 20, yeah. So before I pull the ticket and we close out, is there anything you want to say before we close out?
Yeah, last time we spoke, they more or less resolved the B shares issue, and I said, hey, it's nice to have this cloud away from Humbl shares. And then the stock fell from $1.20 all the way down to 76 cents. At that point, I just kind of threw my hands up in the air and I go, if this isn't good enough and people are going to still sell, what the hell, whatever, I'm still buying, and I bought some shares. I think my lowest was around 80 cents. So, and then we see the stock just take off from there. And there were a lot of reasons we don't have time to get into. But the stock went off from there, and here we were over 100% in 7 days. So in just a matter of a short amount of time, you can go from 2 months of red to 7 days of just kicking butt. But irrespective of what the stock price was doing, all the while, the Humbl team is working, no days off, and they're putting deals together. And now we get the press release today about one of the deals they had been working on coming to fruition, and they told us. So I didn't worry about the stock price going down before, and I wasn't, popping champagne bottles when it was up 100% over 7 days. It's a long-term investment. It's going to take a while for all of this to come together, but let's not forget, irrespective of the stock price, this company is going places and the team is hard at work. And I wish Brian Foote the best of luck on Friday with Charles Payne.
Yeah, and I repeated myself today in a tweet, and I said, repeating myself. I said, I have often said that you're buying a company, you're not buying a stock price. And we've seen how it's gone from 76 cents to $1.70 where it opened today. And if it can radically shoot up like that, I mean, it can go down and it can go up. And I've also said over the last number of months that volatility is your friend because you can make a lot of money. If you bought at 76 cents, you're up over 100%, or were just, in 2 weeks. So volatility can be your friend. You just have to learn to stomach the downturns of the volatility slide. But it's like a roller coaster. It doesn't just go down. It hits the bottom and then comes back up for another hill. So with that, Tom, we'll say goodbye. We can't cover everything that's on our mind in one episode, but I think we had some good comments tonight. And folks, leave us your comments. What do you think? Are you excited about this? I think we are, and I think hopefully we explained why. And we'll look forward to other interviews, and we'll look forward to Brian Foote's interview on Friday. Until then, have a great evening. Keep your cards and letters coming in, and we'll see you tomorrow night.